Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Bob's Garage. Got the Mercedes back in the garage. I was noticing a clicking noise coming from the front end when turning. Heard that before, I've had to do that a few times. So I believe it's the CV joint. I've got the car up on jacks right now. And a quick and easy thing you can do is go underneath and grab the CV joint itself and just try to rotate it back and forth. So that one's good. This might be a bit darker in here. There's the shaft there. So it's basically the whole shaft. So I can't get that reproduced because I just realized with the car jacked up and the suspension fully drooped, it's going to be not in its normal wear, so it's probably tightened it up. But you have to take my word for it. This is the one that was causing the problem. And interesting part about that is that this is the one, when I went to a couple parts suppliers, it is only the one that was shown as being offering a heavy duty one, as if this side is prone to wear. So I'm not going to go through every little step. I'll just kind of lay out, free up hand here, lay out what I'm planning to do. So no different than any kind of spring removal. First of all, very dangerous. Make sure you have lots of safety precautions. Going to basically be lowering the, let's set this down here. Hopefully that's bright enough there. I'm going to be lowering the knuckle here and the lower A-arm. So the whole brake assembly to come down. In order to do that, I'm going to put a jack underneath the A-arm and going to disconnect, first of all, the sway link up here, which is, looks like about an 18 hex head, 18 socket size. And then I'm going to disconnect the tie rod end link. Don't really need to do that, but it'll allow you to move the knuckle around to help get the CV joint out. And I'm going to I think I'll leave all the brake lines in place. I think there's enough room. And then so I'm going to drop it all the way down with the jack underneath the lower A-arm. There's a bolt down there as well. I put a little bit of penetrating oil into these, but it's actually dried off pretty well. And there's, on the strut assembly, there's a bolt down there. So I'm going to take the weight on the jack and I'm going to loosen all these bolts and primarily get tie rod in and sway bar link out of the way to get full extension. I'm going to likely just loosen this bolt off a bit and then see how far this arm will droop down. Take the tension off the spring to get the strut bolt out. That's basically it. I'm going to leave pretty much everything in place if I can, and we'll see how that works. I'll bring you back when I've done that. So that's, I think there might be 2118. I think that's also an 18. And that looks like a 21 or 22, and that's pretty crusty. So I'll take a wire brush to that as well, and maybe a 22 there. I'll let you know if in the video if I got some of these dimensions wrong. Oh yeah, and I forgot the actual axle nut. It's held in place by basically tapping this lighter sheet metal of the nut into a cut-in area in the axle shaft. So you have to pry that out. That's harder than it looks. You need a good sharp chisel to get that loose, but that acts as like a lock washer. So you need to get that loose, that out, pried back before you can turn it loose. This is a 36 12-point socket. So I had to go and buy, I have a 36, I have plenty of axle nut sockets, but not a 36 12-point. So now I have a whole set. So anyhow, so I'll try that. I'm just going to loosen all the bolts. Basically go around everything to make sure I can free them up. I don't want any surprises. Don't want to get too far and have a big problem. But loosen everything up, make sure it'll move, and then I'll get the jack ready to lower everything down. Okay, minor correction. That's an 18. This is a 21. That's the tie rod end, and this upper is a 21 as well. So I haven't got down to the bottom strut. So it took a little while. This is a northeastern rust belt. I had to clean this out. So it's a number 40. What's that? I think it's a Torx. A male Torx. And I need that to hold the nut from turning. Won't be a problem for anything. Well, it might be a problem for the upper ball joint, but we'll keep our fingers crossed there anyways. So that's to basically just to keep it from spinning. So I'll bring you back if there's something that pops up, but I thought I'd give this a little correction. Okay, a couple more little details. A little bit surprising. So had to use a 45 Torx to hold this in place, and the tie rod end used a 6mm hex, or it's 45 that's really badly worn out. Could be either. And the last nut there is a 24mm, and you're going to need something powerful, whatever your favorite brand is, to break those loose. I had a 3-inch pry bar, and I could not budge them. Sorry, a 3-foot pry bar, 1/2-inch drive, and I could not budge these bolts. I had to hit them with the torque wrench. So I'm just getting ready now to lower the arm. So I'm going to take the slack off here. This is where it starts getting dangerous. So got this as basically as far as it'll go, but when I disconnect this, there's nothing preventing this. Well, this arm itself will become loose, so the whole axle can flop forward, the whole hub can flop forward, but it's still being held by spring tension, so that should be okay. So I think I don't know if I'll, yeah, maybe I'll set this up on a tripod. Okay, so again, a couple changes. I didn't actually need to disconnect the strut entirely. Might have helped. It was hard, so I wound up having to, so it didn't have to disconnect the brake lines. Basically just turn the hub in and push or pull the strut out. It's a bit of a stiff angle there, but it does work. Now, it may not be true going together because the new CV joint will be tighter. Well, we'll start there anyways and see how it goes. Do notice that I pulled one of my lines out. Looks like that one where that loops into there. Probably should have disconnected that first. Anyhow, but so far so good. So the only thing left now is to pull it out of that joint. Now I'm just looking at that, and I can see that I'm going to have to lower the A-arm because that big ring on the CV joint won't come out. So that'll be a trick. So I will have to lower the A-arm a bit further. So I'm going to have to take that bolt out. So anyways, that's basically it. And you get the arm, the CV joint out itself, there's a ring clip. So you have to really pull it, jam it to get it out. Okay, so learned a little bit from trying to get this out. I was having a hard time getting the CV joint out. But what was happening is the lower arm was fully depressed, and so I was basically pulling down on the car. So I had to jack the A-arm out so I could get it pretty much a horizontal pull out, and then one jerk on it and it popped right out. And then I lower the arm back down and pull the strut forward, and that's that. I'm going to show you the new A-arm. So I got this from a automotive supplier from China. Everything looks okay. So I'll give you a bit of an idea of how it works, but I checked it out and everything looks fine. Comes with a new nut, but it looks good, but we'll see how it works. Thought I'd get a little closer look of the new and the old one. One's a little compressed. You can pull it to get it longer, but splines are the same. I'm going to wipe this end and see a little bit of a... Oh, it's not bad. So that's going to get a bit of a wipe, but everything looks good. It's got a heavier axle shaft dimension, which is a bit of a surprise. You can see these taper down. This one doesn't. Not sure if that matters for this, but anyways. And spline's good. The only thing I see that is different is that the nut for the axle, it doesn't have the same locking mechanism where you drive the sheet metal part of the nut down as a locking ring, so that'll need some Loctite on it. So reverse is just in the opposite of disassembly. I'm going to try to keep the clean parts clean. I'll probably have to get the axle up a little bit. This pin, I forgot to mention the first time, have to get it with the axle jacked up a little bit. Or I should say the hub jacked up a little bit. I think I said earlier they didn't need to do it, but like I said, I was wrong. You do, and you have to pry down the sway bar link to get this bolt in. Okay, now I'm going to try to get the axle up just the same way as I disassembled it, so I can get a better push of the axle shaft into the transaxle. Okay, before I get the camera on, I just went to place the CV joint in position, and it just popped in. So all I did was lean it out a bit, turn it, that's the tie rod end, sorry for that noise, turn it out a bit, and lean out the boot. I'm not going to try to pop it out because it's in. Anyways, it just fell right in the spot. So that's all that's necessary for that. Then all I have to do here, now I'm going to get this put up so it gets it out of the way. So it's giving me a little bit of a fight here, and that's because of the spleen. It's not quite aligned. I'm just going to rock it back and forth. There we go. So that's just a matter of getting the splines aligned with the hub in here, and then it pops in place. And now I'll put the upper A-arm. This is just to get things from putting too much stress on the various parts. And that's about it, other than I forgot the washer. So this is basically a nylon washer that centers on the nut just to keep it squared up there. There, I'm just going to get things set up and I'll start reassembling tie rod end, the sway bar mount. Oh, there goes another nut. And I'll bring you back when that's done. Okay, so now I've got the strut bolt in. I haven't got the nut on the other side. And I've got a couple threads holding the top on so things don't flop around. And now it's just a matter of jacking up the A-arm and lining up the hub. So that's easy. Thread that on, and now I just got to jack this up so that the sway bar link feeds into there. It's got to go down for this to fit in. This was tricky to get this in. My jacks goes a bit fast. Now I got it. So I'm just lowering it down. And just so I get a couple threads on here. There. Okay. So, thank you. Got an assistant today. So, just a few threads on there. Got the threads on there. Got a thread, which you probably can't see because of the glare, of the tie rod end. Still have to put the nut back on for the lower A-arm. And I've got hoses that I need to check because I was unfortunately pulling on a few things. Like for instance, that fits in there. So I think I'm going to go once through everything, make sure everything hasn't put any strain in there, and then I'm going to start torquing everything down. So not a whole lot more to really show for that. For these, like, it's not like the video I did on the rear springs. This is just, these are the sway bar bushings. Just got to keep them from spinning. It's a conical mount for the tie rod end. I think for this lower bushing for the lower A-arm, I'm not going to torque that until it's got the weight on the tires. And the very last thing I'll do is put the new spindle nut on this. So that's going to need a little bit of Loctite. Let's put some blue on there and hold that in place, and that'll be it. So I'm not going to bring back the details of just tightening up all these little bolts, but I'll show you, give you roughly. I couldn't find any specs for torque wrenches or torques for some of these nuts, but I'll, you know, I'm going to at least go really based on size. I'll probably put these up to 120 for the larger 21 millimeter nuts. And that'll probably be about 80, 90. Just basically the same amount it took to take them off. These are typically like 150 to 200. I'll see if I can find information online and post that with the video. But that's about it. So I think I'll just bring you around when I've got everything all snugged up. Okay, I'm going to go through all the tightening of the bolts now. Again, the problem I got is that you need to have, to keep the, wrong one there, to keep the nut, or tighten the nut, the whole ball joint turns. So you wind up having to use, so this is a Torx 45. You wind up having to use this. Well, it becomes pretty hard to get a torque wrench on that. So largely it's by feel. So that felt like about 90 foot-pounds. Good rusty bolts, they shouldn't back off. The next one is the 18 millimeter for the sway bar link. Move this light around. See if that helps out. It's starting to get dark in here. So I'm going to see if I can do it with the wrench here. Nope, wrong way. Yeah, so the whole thing's spinning again. So that, I believe, was a Torx 40. And that's an 18 millimeter nut. Same thing, I take to about 90. And then down there, let's see if you can see that. There's a 21 millimeter, and it's probably a work went on the floor. Can you see that there? So this is actually a 6 millimeter. I'm wrong. So again, this is to keep it from rotating. Wrong way again. And unfortunately, like I said, I can't get a torque wrench on there because the whole thing will turn. So again, also about 90 foot-pounds. So the only one left is the nut on the side for the lower strut. I'm not going to tighten that up. I'm going to wait till I jack up the wheel a little bit to ride height, but I will tighten this up a little bit. This is just going to be a quick little snug here. This is the one that's going to take 150, so that's a fair bit. So that's it for, oh, I forgot, I gotta put some Loctite on. So I'll put some Loctite in the thread and tighten that down. And so that everything else is done. Sway bar link tightened, torqued. Upper A-arm tightened and torqued, tie rod untightened and torqued, and then all that's left now is the axle nut, which I have to put some blue Loctite on, which is inside, so I'll have to go get it, and the lower A-arm strut connection, which I will not tighten until the car's at ride height so it don't twist the bushing within the bore, and that's it. So I'm going to wrap up this video. It's getting late. You can see it's a bit darker now. Probably the video quality was horrible. I just didn't take the time to set the camera and tripods and that sort of stuff. So hopefully you got something out of it. There's a few other videos already out there for replacing the CV joint. So, you know, there's plenty to choose from for getting the information for this. All my tools put away. This big car in a small garage, generally going to clean up a whole lot, or else you're tripping over all sorts of things. So this is a job, I would say it's probably, if I was to rate it in terms of what you need for tools, probably about a 3 or 4. You're getting into some 12-point sockets for a lot of the nuts. There's only one 6-point that was on there. Torx drivers as well for pretty much all the bolts, the you know, the tie rod ends, the sway bar links, the upper mount, and to keep things from spinning, and jack stands, so safety as well. So a fair bit of equipment to do this. It's basic handyman tools, but you know, I rent up to a 36 millimeter, 12-point, 24, 21, 18 millimeters, and then all the Torx. So you can need a good selection of wrenches, you know, and then on top of that, I needed box ends as well. So I got ratcheting box ends. It makes it a bit nicer, but you just, like I said, you gotta hold the bolt where you turn the nut to keep things from spinning. In terms of you know, so tools, like about a 3 or 4. In terms of difficulty, probably just a 3. It's something you got to be very careful about. Safety, you got to understand how the parts go together. You got to understand where the pressure of the spring is. So in this case, the strut is, you know, the spring's captured in the strut, but if you unbolt things in the wrong order, it's slamming apart. So you definitely have to have a support under the A-arm so you can disassemble in a controlled manner, you know, loosening nuts off to sort of gently get things going. You know, and the other thing about tools is an impact driver. You definitely need one for these. I started off with I think a 250, and you know, when I was much younger, and that just doesn't cut it. I think the one I got now is a 600 foot-pound, and that seems to be what you need nowadays. So, you know, skill-wise, not that hard. The back spring replacement was harder than this. I've done a lot of CV joints. It's not a typically hard job to do. You know, you got to take your time, and I wasn't doing that well tonight. I kind of wanted to get it done before it got dark. I got a fair bit of work to do, but not a hard job. You know, technically like 3 to 4 for the tools, and definitely worthwhile. So that's not a Mercedes CV joint or half shaft, whatever you want to call it. CV joints are either end of the drive shaft or the half shaft. I was mixing terms back and forth, but it was only about 150 bucks. I don't think they're that much money, surprisingly low. I'll let you know how it holds out. You know, the car doesn't get a lot of mileage, but I'll put in the description or update description if it turns out that it's doesn't last very long. So I hope you enjoyed this. You probably noticed there is the brake rotors are in extremely poor shape. The front dust shields are also rattling. They've rusted around the mount, so I have to fix that as well. So my next video is going to be changing out the 2 front brakes, which I have the parts for. I haven't put the card down in the jacks because that'll be my next video. So I hope you hit the subscribe button. That'll give you a link to that next video for this. And I got a couple more. This one has also got the hood release cables got corroded and need to replace it. And I've also got part of the DEF system I got to replace for a future video. So if you hit the subscribe, you'll get notifications to come up. So thanks for watching. Hope the video quality isn't too bad. I won't know until I edit it. But thanks again.